And if this continue, we will reach the level where even our food security will collapse entirely without having access to our farmland.
Food is never just food. It's survival, it's land, and it's a fight. And in the West Bank and in Palestine, that fight is real. It's war. Abbas Milhem, the executive director of the Palestinian Farmers Union, has been in the thick of it, advocating for farmers whose land and lives are constantly under threat. I'm Nathan Singh, and this is Through Food, where we explore the world through what we eat. For each conversation, we ask our guests to choose food that holds meaning to them, something that tells a story. So, Abbas, what did you choose for us to eat together today, and why?
Good morning, Nathan. Thank you. I chose actually what we in Palestine would call as the basic food. In every kitchen, you'll find the things I have chosen today, and they are basic and very important. It's olive oil and thyme, what we call it locally here as za'atar. I have table olives and some vegetables like tomato, sweet pepper, cucumber, and lettuce. Everything here we eat is grown in Palestine. Even the bread, this kind of bread, it's homemade bread. It's not from the bakery. The wheat is cultivated in the farmland to produce flour, and then it is baked inside the house by women, by mothers, to produce this traditional food, bread. So you eat like homemade bread, dip it with olive oil again, and with za'atar. I do it.
The restricting the access of all Palestinian farmers who owning the land in that area, including my own farm and my family farm. From October 7 until now, we have been unable to get access to that land, and it is a farmland of olive crops.
How do you feel knowing that the lands you once harvested are now too dangerous to go on?
You know, I'm disconnected from life. Believe me, I mean, it's sad, it's misery. Unfortunately, sometimes you get the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness at the same time, which is difficult. Although we need to keep hope, and we will resist and continue to resist by insisting to cultivate our land, and this is the way our farmers are resisting occupation, is by cultivating and insisting to go and visit and practicing their farming, activities every day. But now they are disconnected from this land. It's really very, very sad. It's not easy. I mean, I don't know if there are words that can describe the way you feel inside yourself, being disconnected from life itself, which is your land.
And a lot of this land was passed down to you from your family.
Yes, it was inherited by from my father, who inherited that land from his father, and so on. This had been, over history, over the past, not centuries, thousands of years, moved from one generation to another through this inherited system until it reached to us, this current generation. And now the threat is high to lose that land. But we will continue resist. And believe me, despite all these challenges and difficulties and obstacles, farmers are trying to go every day to their land. They know that they will be harassed, they will be beaten, but despite that, they did not stop, and they go every day. And this is the difference between the owner of the land, who is ready to sacrifice his life for land because it is source of life for him, with the criminals who are trying to steal the land. Because they know this land doesn't belong to them, they only attack and they come there with weapons, with army to provide protection for them. Why farmers? They go to their land with naked chests, with nothing. Assuming that one day they will get back to their land. And this hope will survive and will stay in the bottom of our hearts until that day will be achieved and Palestine will be free. We know that day is coming. It will come. I don't know how much price will be paid until we get to that day, But that day is coming. This is the belief we had in our hearts, and this is what we inherit to our sons and grandsons in the future, the same we did when we inherited from our fathers and grandfathers. This belief, nothing can take it out from our hearts and from the hearts of all Palestinians, regardless of the charity, because we believe that the price we are paying is worthy, because we are defending our land and we are the owners. And those strangers will become part of history, and we will own the future one day, inshallah.
For the last few years, in partnership with the NGO Freedom for Palestine, you've helped establish what are called freedom farms. What impact do these freedom farms have for farmers?
You know, the best thing that happened to us at the union was this partnership with Freedom campaign. So Freedom is focusing on cultivating olive trees. This is one. By doing that, we protect the land from being confiscated or annexed by Israeli occupation or settlers, because cultivated land make it difficult to be confiscated. This is one. And second, by cultivating olive trees, first we compensate those trees that was uprooted and damaged by settlers or the army by cultivating the new trees for farmers, and help farmers generate an income out of these trees. We're not only cultivating olive trees, but we're cultivating that farm with olive trees, providing and installing internal irrigation network to allow complementary irrigation for these trees during the hot summer, and protecting that farm from wild animals and settlers' attacks by providing and installing steel fence. This is very unique. This is very special. And by doing this, really, those trees can fruit in less than 2 years, because they are protected by steel fence and because they have complementary irrigation through the internal irrigation network.
If a farm isn't established on the land, is it at risk of being taken legally?
Yes. Now, legally, you know, they can find an excuse, the Israeli army, for that. But if the land is empty and not cultivated, the Israeli occupying power, they follow different techniques of confiscating that land. First, they look back into the history, starting from the Ottoman Empire period. During that time, the Ottoman Empire period, there was a very good legislation adopted by the Ottoman Empire, which says to encourage people to cultivate their land, that if a farmer does not cultivate his land or his farm for 3 years, then the government can take that land and give it to another farmer who is to cultivate. Israel, they benefit from this law or this legislation by taking the land, the empty land, the non-cultivated one, from a Palestinian farmer to give it to a settler, benefiting from that policy that would serve settlement expansion purposes according to the Israeli occupation. Now, if they don't find an empty land that the Ottoman Empire law can be applied, they look into the British Mandate period to find the legislation that would justify the control or the confiscation of that land. If they don't find the army, then they go to the Jordanian period to look for any legislation or any law. If not, they issue a military order and confiscate the land. As simple as that. That's why the empty land is an easy hunt for confiscation and settlement expansion. Because of that, we as a union, together with Freedom, are cultivating the empty land in order to protect that land from confiscation and generate income for many families. One of the freedom farms we established was for Bilal Saleh family, who left behind 4 children and a wife, a widow. And actually our dream as Freedom and BFU was to establish a freedom farm in the area where Bilal Saleh was killed.
but unfortunately it was almost impossible to get there because of the settler attacks in that area. So we helped establish a feudal farm in Assawi Kabul for the wife, the widower, and the children. And for us, it's very important. So the family is following the legacy of their father and the steps of their father, who was a farmer since he was born, by the way. He is known in Assawi town as a farmer since he was 10 years old. He actually blew up among the olive groves since he was a kid. And by the way, he grew up as an orphan. His father died when he was 10 years, and then he lost his mom when he was 19 years old. So actually, and then he get married after his mom died. So he grew up with the only family he had around him was olive trees. And then he established the family when he got better. And all this family was always going with him in the olive farm when they harvest or grew or looked after the trees. And when Bilal Saleh died, he died in the same farm, but in front of his kids and his wife. And if you see his kids, you can see the sadness in their eyes, in their face. Their facial expressions tells you the sad moments they went through when their father was killed and how they will go in this life without a father. But they are insisting to follow the legacy and the steps of their father by looking after the freedom farm we established to them. It's very important. Yes, Bilal Saleh passed away and he left this life, but his legacy from these olive trees will remain there, and his sons and daughters, by looking after these olive trees we planted and cultivated as part of the freedom farm we did for them, will grow, and his soul, Bilal's soul, will be in those trees, and and his family will feed it. Every day, every moment, they go and look after these trees.
Do you know what has happened to his land now?
No one knows. It's in a very lit area and under the full control of the Israeli settlers. They are unable to get access there, and we cannot even also access that area, hoping and wishing, inshallah, one day, situation will allow, and then we will go back to the area where Bilal Saleh was killed. Actually, we're trying to provide steel fence around that farmland where Bilal Saleh was killed to prevent future attacks of settlers, but unfortunately we couldn't. That's why we established the Freedom Farm in another area for them.
How do you think Israeli settlers view you and other Palestinian farmers?
They say it publicly. They don't hide this. They say you are animals, and you don't belong here. You should go to the Arab world and live there. They want to transfer Palestinians to Jordan, and this is the plan, because they want to take the land but empty from people. To empty from the people, they need to get rid of people. They are using different techniques. Until now, they are committing, crimes here and there. Beating one family here, killing a farmer there, attacking a group of farmers there, and so on. Second level is forcibly forcing Palestinian farmers to evacuate through, attacks overnight. And this succeeded in evacuating and, kicking out almost 2,000 farming families in the Jordan Valley area. And through increased settler violence, this may reach the level where massacres can be conducted against Palestinian communities. And they distributed leaflets among Palestinians living in villages and towns, calling and asking them to evacuate to Jordan. So their plans are obvious, and they are public, and they are visible. They're not hidden. Not only settlers are saying that, even their leaders and the ministers in the government are saying the same, that this land must be empty from Palestinians, and Palestinians can go and live in Jordan with other Arabs there. So the plan, the annexation plan, It's not only targeting the land, it's targeting the land and the people living on that land. The land will be confiscated according to their vision, and those animals either will be killed or transferred to the Arab world. This is their vision, and they even proudly say this in their public media.
How do you personally view the settlers who are living on or near your land?
Criminals. They are criminals. And criminals need to be prisoned. They are criminals against empathy, criminals against humanity. Occupiers conducting criminals against us, against the land, against life, against dignity, against everything. Those are occupiers conducting criminals against humanity. And the only treatment for them would be holding them accountable and being sanctioned, boycott, and brought to justice. This is the way I see that. This is the way I see it. They are criminal. What is the way you deal with a criminal in Toronto, for example? Jail, put him in jail. And this is the way those people need to be dealt with. First, they need to go back to their country, State of Israel. They don't belong here. And second, they need to pay the price of all the crimes they conducted against us. They are criminals.
Agricultural exports once played a significant role in Palestine's economy, but today they contribute around only 4% of the GDP. What factors have contributed to the decline in agricultural exports?
To understand that, let's go back to the middle of 70s. In middle of 70s, agriculture sector was contributing up to 35% of the GDP in Palestine. Why? Because at that time, number of settlers and settlements were very small. Very few settlers were living in West Bank at that time, and most of the land owned by Palestinians were accessible. So it was cultivated and, productive, and that production contributed economically to contribute with like 35% of our GDP in Palestine. Over time, from mid-70s, over decades, and due to settlement expansion on the other line, the contribution to GDP has declined. In middle 80s, that GDP from contribution of agriculture in GDP went down to 14%. Now it is less than 4%. Just considering in mind that number of settlers now in Palestine is 750,000 settlers. You can imagine the expansion of these settlements on the account of Palestinian owned land and owned farmland that was confiscated to deploy this large number of settlers until now. 750,000 settlers who are controlling now our water resources and land resources. And those two main resources are the two main resources for agricultural production. Without land, you can't produce. Without water, you can't produce. And the two main resources are in the hand and under the control of the Israeli settlers. That's why the contribution of agriculture to the GDP declined from that 35% in the mid-70s to less than 4% now. And if this continue, we will reach the level where even our food security will collapse entirely without having access to our farmland. So, yes, there is a decline in this level. And not only decline, even the land we are losing for the benefit, for the sake of settlement expansion, is rapidly increasing. Israel managed to shift from the level of land grabbing small piece of land here and there, to the level of confiscation, which is larger than grabbing, and now to the level of annexation, where annex entire area of land for the sake of Israel. And now the new plan of the Israeli government is that they want to annex the entire Area C land, which is 60% of the entire West Bank area, to belong to Israel. Which means that we will have no agriculture anymore, no food security anymore, and no water resources. And that will be taken and confiscated for the sake of settlers and settlement expansion. It is a big threat now in Palestine. This world need to awaken. I don't know how this world, see all these facts and remain silent. And they talk about democracy and international human laws and international community and international values of what? Democracy and human rights. It's a big fake. No one believes them anymore.
You mentioned earlier that since October 7th, you haven't been able to access any of your land. And I'm just wondering, are you taking any protective measures for the people that work on your land or for your land in general? Or is it just not, are you just not able to
What
go on?
protective measure I can take? Only I just advise them, before you go there, while going, try to look around to see if there are settlers or not. And if you are an attack, try not to be at least beaten or shot, But what preventive measures I can take from it? I have no army, and we had nothing to defend ourselves with. And if you try to defend yourself even by holding the stone, just, to scare settlers not to attempt, you will be killed immediately. So you can do nothing, unfortunately. And this is the bad thing, is the feeling of helplessness, is that you can do nothing. It's really very killing feeling.
Cheers, Abbas.
Cheers, Martin.
What does the future of farming in the West Bank look like?
For the first time, I feel the uncertainty of the future, to be honest.
Okay.
Because we have never witnessed this level of violence and terrorist attacks from settlers like this. And we have never witnessed an Israeli occupation government like this before. So the future is really, really uncertain. But we have faith in the future that what is coming is even worse than what has passed so far. If situation will continue like this, and this Israeli occupation power will feel that they are immune against any actions from this world, the future is difficult. The future, not only agriculture, even the future of our existence, the future of our life in this country is really under a very, very big risk. Does it mean that we will surrender? Of course, no. We will continue what we do. We will continue farming, producing food, try to reach our land, cultivating our land. Food is very important for any human being in this world. Yeah, it's a matter. It's important. For example, if you walk in Toronto and you feel hungry, you can walk to any restaurant and get like a sandwich or a burger or whatever. No, in Palestine, the story is different. When you're kids, you remember stories beyond that food that was produced to you. As I told you, this is lettuce, yes. But it's not just a lettuce. Look at it, and you can feel all the hands who planted, looked after, accepted the risk and the challenges of reaching the land and to produce this lettuce until it was put in front of you on this table to eat. So they have stories. If you look, deeper into these leaves, you can see all the farmers, all the families, all the people who contributed to bring this food on your plate. So the connection is not just the food, it's the food and the land from where that food was produced from. This connection is deep. And with each food item you eat, there are so many stories beyond it. As I told you about the story of this olive oil. Yani just with this small quantity of olive oil here, you're making up having at least maybe 100 farmers work together to make this olive oil ready here in front of you, where you can dip your bread in and then with the time again. And this time, the za'atar, how many people were engaged in producing this small item food in front of you here at the table? Women-led cooperators, farmers who were harvesting, farmers who were planting, children who were going there and dancing around the fire when it was collected. And the way that za'atar was dried and prepared and then squeezed and smashed and melted and mixed till it gets here. For me, food is not just food. It's the food and all those beyond that food that make it to be food. There's so many things around it. It's different from a restaurant, for example, where the cooker would, melt things together, put them in a pot, and then produce a meal to you. No, for me, is those who produce these items, food items to you on the table. In a country and in a context like Palestine, where every food item that is produced has a different story, but with the same context of challenges on different layers and different complications. So for me, when I eat, I feel proud that our farmers, despite all these challenges, they went there. They accepted the challenge and they accepted the risk. They reached to their farms. They harvested their pepper, their olives, their beetroot, their whatever, and managed to process it and bring it to me as a consumer or to you as a consumer on the table. So sometimes, and believe me, this olive oil, sometimes it's melted with blood of farmers like Bilal Saleh. All this table olives, in many cases, it is mixed with the cries of people, of those people who were crying when they are beaten in their farms. This red sweet pepper holding the same color of farmers' blood, and in many cases, that sweet pepper was produced with blood, because people, some of them, were killed while trying to go to their farms or harvest or getting access or coming back from the harvest. That's why when we eat, we are proud. The taste is different. If you are here, not in Toronto, and we are eating on the sweet pepper, you compare, you feel the different taste. Not because those who are producing in Toronto are not good people. No. The taste here is different. It's the taste of change, the taste of suffering, the taste of pain, but still able to produce very nice and delicious olive oil or sweet pepper. The story of food items here is different from any story of producing food items around that world. And we will continue producing these delicious food items with our friends.